I recall the night it all commenced as if it is indelibly etched in my memory. It was not meant to transpire in this manner, not for me nor for us. However, life possesses an uncanny ability to transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Her name was Amelia. She was my best friend Noah's stepmother, and that night altered everything. It was late, well past midnight, and Ethan and his father had departed for the weekend. Amelia's intended to be a tranquil evening, yet when I glanced across the street, I observed a light flickering gently in Claire's room. Amelia, Noah's stepmother, had always been a pleasant woman who maintained a serene household, but tonight, something about her appeared altered. I could not ascertain the reason, yet I felt an inexplicable urge to check on her. Noah had mentioned that she had not been feeling well before his departure, though she had dismissed it, asserting, "I'm fine really." Nonetheless, I could perceive her slow movements around the house lately, indicative of her fatigue. In her gaze, the grin failed to fully illuminate Amelia's, prompting my concern despite my awareness that it was unwarranted. Although I could not articulate the reason, the pole exhibited unprecedented strength that night. I departed from my residence and proceeded along the street to her location. My pulse raced in my chest as I stood at the door, uncertain whether to knock. The door was consistently unlocked. I gently pulled it open, attempting to prevent the creaking hinges from revealing my presence. The residence was silent. The subtle hum of the heater and the gentle rustle of cloth rendered the atmosphere subdued. The aroma of lavender permeated the atmosphere with a soothing, recognizable fragrance. I upped the staircase to her room, the light still emanating from beneath the door. Upon gently pushing it open, I observed Amelia lying on her side on the bed, her breathing gentle and steady, her long hair cascading across the pillow, her face illuminated by the soothing light from the bedside lamp. She appeared serene and exquisite in that moment. I was uncertain about what had compelled me to this location, yet now that I was in her chamber, departure was not an option. I was unable to do so. I cautiously seated myself on the bed's edge, mindful not to disrupt her, although my very presence appeared to rouse her. Her voice was a gentle rasp due to drowsiness. "I am frozen. Amelia," I murmured, my heart abruptly accelerating in my chest. She blinked many times, acclimating her eyes to the illumination. "What is your purpose for being here?" she inquired, her voice still laden with drowsiness. I observed the illumination. I stated, my voice slightly changing. "I wanted to inquire on your well-being. I was informed that you are unwell." Her gaze relaxed, although a little reluctance persisted. "Your presence here is unwarranted," she stated, her tone soft, "that you had to be at home recuperating." "I was unable to sleep." I acknowledged my admission, believing you could want assistance. A moment of quiet ensued. Roberti remained there, the stillness extending between us like a suffocating shroud, until I could no longer endure it. I immediately extended my hand, gently sweeping a strand of her hair off her face. She did not withdraw. Rather, her eyes momentarily closed, as if relishing the gentle touch. I experienced an unexpected flutter in my chest for her, unlike any feelings I had for Amelia before. I spoke gently, my voice disrupting the quiet. "You need not face this alone. I recognize the considerable effort you have exerted to maintain cohesion." Her eyes locked with me, revealing a glimmer of something. Apprehension, optimism, ambiguity. Inexpressible. "I do not wish to impose my emotions on anyone," she stated softly. "I am only attempting to navigate the day. You need not undertake it independently." I asserted my voice with greater strength this time. "I am present for you, Amelia. You merit more than that." She gazed at me, her eyes widened as though she failed to comprehend my words. "You are unaware of the experience, as I believe I am." I spoke softly, my hand hovering near hers. "You have been shouldering excessive burdens alone, attempting to safeguard others, and have neglected to allow someone else to assist you." After a prolonged silence, she, seemingly compelled by an unseen power, gradually extended her palm to rest softly atop mine. The contact was hesitant and ambiguous. However, upon occurrence, it seemed as though something within me transformed. I sensed the warmth of her palm on mine and the subtle rhythm of her flesh, which accelerated my heartbeat. Retreat was not an option. I was uncertain about my expectations. However, I did not anticipate feeling this way. This proximate to her, this intertwined. She inclined toward me, her breath grazing my skin as her gaze fixed upon mine. She murmured in a low, hoarse tone, "This is incorrect." I acknowledge I stated my voice was just a whisper. Nevertheless, I could not detach myself, not at this moment, not when it seemed as though everything within me was imploring to get nearer to her. I wished to avoid future regret over this matter. She whispered, her voice quivering. "You will not," I asserted resolutely, my palm rising to cradle her cheek. The feel of her flesh under my hand caused my heart to hurt. Gradually and cautiously, I inclined towards her lips, initiating a kiss that was first tender, sensitive, and somewhat tentative, but then a transformation occurred. The kiss intensified, and the external world dissolved into oblivion. Only we were present. Without constraints or reluctance, only the warmth of her flesh on mine, the flavor of her lips, and the manner in which her fingers gripped my wrist as she drew me nearer, our breaths intertwining in the tranquility. She gazed at me with wide eyes, her chest heaving as if she were struggling to breathe. "Apologies," she said, her voice trembling. "I do not require your presence, nor do you need to express remorse," I stated, my hand gliding over her face. "I desired it. I desired this." Her gaze met mine, and for the first time, I perceived the same need I had harbored for an extended period mirrored in her eyes. However, she asserted that we should not proceed, but her tone lacked the previous conviction as I grabbed her hand and brought it to my lips. "What is the reason behind this?" I inquired of my lips, while caressing the back of her hand. What was hindering us? She momentarily closed her eyes, seemingly attempting to summon the fortitude to disengage. However, upon reopening them, the space between us had vanished. Her kiss was imbued with subtle intensity, and I reciprocated without hesitation or remorse. The kiss was first gentle and electrifying. Then as we continued, the external world gradually diminished from perception. The warmth of her lips and the soft pressure of her hands on my chest caused me to lose awareness of our surroundings. I had never envisioned a moment such as this. I had never anticipated that this kind, compassionate woman, Noah's stepmother, would share my sentiments when we ultimately separated, both of us panting. The hush was not promptly interrupted. She reclined on the bed, her hand firmly clasping mine as though she feared I would vanish if she released her grasp. The atmosphere between us was laden with guilt and longing, yet the desire prevailed. I sensed her heart beating beneath her hand, her fingers quivering as they rested on my chest. "Robert," she murmured, her voice soft and tremulous. "What actions are we undertaking?" "I am uncertain," I responded candidly, my voice hoarse. I was aware that this was not intended to occur. I recognized it was erroneous. She was married to my best friend's father, and there existed an implicit boundary between us that ought not to have been transgressed, but in that moment it did not seem inappropriate. It felt like liberation, as if the burden we had both borne was alleviated by one singular kiss. "I did not intend for this to occur," she whispered, her gaze probing mine. Her gaze wavered as though seeking permission, an answer to the unarticulated query that lingered between us. "You did not intend for this," yet I faltered, inclining my lips to graze her temple. "I had desired this for an extended period." "Amelia," she exhaled softly, her fingertips delineating the contour of my jaw, as though she were committing the sensation of my visage to memory. "I am uncertain of the meaning of this. I am uncertain about what occurs next," she stated. The ambiguity in her speech was reflected in her eyes, and I did not either. I acknowledged that my heart was racing, although perhaps we need not resolve everything this evening. "Let us remain here at this moment. My sole desire is to be in your company." Her breath halted in her throat, and for an extended while she remained silent. Instead, she appeared to be deliberating the choice of either rejecting me or embracing the nascent connection between us. Ultimately, she articulated her thoughts. "I wish to avoid causing harm to anyone." She spoke softly, her voice scarcely audible. "Ethan's father has confidence in me." Her voice faltered slightly. "I cannot betray them." "I comprehend." I spoke softly, my fingers delicately cradling her cheek. "I would never wish for you to engage in any activity that causes you discomfort. We will resolve this together. Nevertheless, at this moment, Amelia, I desire just you." She gazed at me, and for an instant, I perceived the internal conflict inside her, divided between her familial duty and the unmistakable connection that had been developing between us for an extended period. I was uncertain about our ability to surmount the impending challenges. However, I was certain of one fact. We could not reverse what had transpired. I only require proximity to you, I whispered, resting my forehead on hers. There is no necessity for haste. We may go at a leisurely pace. She nodded gradually, her hand positioning itself on my chest. I could perceive her pulse. As I touched her skin warm against mine, her expression relaxed, revealing a flash of something, perhaps hope or maybe a calm resignation. The subsequent days transpired in a blur. I was unable to cease contemplating Amelia. Whenever I closed my eyes, I could sense the recollection of her lips against mine and the warmth of her body pushed against me. I was torn between the pleasure of the event and the apprehension of its repercussions. Nonetheless, each time I encountered her, I sensed a profound connection that neither of us could disregard. We did not discuss that night right away, but there were subtle moments, glances, touches, and phrases that appeared to convey more meaning than anything else. One evening, I arrived at the house unexpectedly, wanting to see her. Ethan and his father had departed once more, rendering the house excessively silent. Upon entering, I discovered her in the kitchen, softly humming while preparing dinner. "Hey," I said, my voice subdued, as I leaned against the doorway observing her. Initially, she did not turn, but when she did, her eyes softened upon seeing me. "Robert," she remarked, a subtle grin playing at her lips. She appeared nearly anxious, while her hands remained steady while stirring the contents of the pot. "You are premature. I was contemplating you," I remarked, my heart beating once again. Uncertain of the reason behind my audacity at that time, her gaze compelled me to embrace honesty. I was unable to cease contemplating our relationship. Her eyes somewhat enlarged, and she swiftly averted her look, concentrating on the stove. "Robert," she restrained herself, her shoulders tensing. "We cannot continue this," she asserted. Yet her tone lacked the conviction it possessed the night of our kiss. The hesitation and yearning in her gaze remained undeniable, regardless of her efforts to suppress it. Neither of us could escape it. That evening after dinner we sat on the couch together, an unarticulated tension permeating the atmosphere between us. Neither of us engaged in extensive conversation, yet the silence was amicable. Occasionally, I would steal a glance at her, my heart racing when our eyes connected. Eventually, I could no longer restrain myself. I reached for her hand, delicately intertwining it with mine. She averted her gaze to our hands, her fingers lightly grazing mine before she turned to meet my gaze. The distance between us seemed electrified, rendering it untenable to continue feigning that nothing had altered. "I am uncertain about my next steps," she said softly, her voice quivering. "However, I realize I cannot distance myself from you." My chest constricted at her declaration, and I delicately elevated her chin, compelling her to meet my eyes. I expressed my desire for you to remain close, my voice barely above a whisper. "I desire to be with you, Amelia, beyond everything else." Her eyes shimmered with sentiment as she exhaled unsteadily. "This is quite complex. Robert, I am uncertain about how we might facilitate this arrangement. I am also uncertain," I murmured. "However, I am certain of one fact." "What did she inquire?" Gently. "I will not permit your departure." I stated that my thumb grazed her cheek. "Neither now nor at any future time." For an extended duration she gazed at me, perhaps deliberating whether to withdraw or to embrace the inevitable connection we both recognized was unfolding. Gradually she inclined towards me, diminishing the space between us. Her lips met mine once more, this time imbued with a newfound certainty. The kiss intensified, rendering the surrounding world inconsequential. The external reality beyond the house ceased to exist. The sole focus was her presence. How seamlessly she fit against me. How her touch accelerated my heartbeat. How her lips tasted of everything I had ever desired. When we finally separated, both breathless, we understood that our relationship could never revert to its previous state. Yet, this realization was inconsequential, for in that moment we had discovered something profound. Something that had been destined to occur, even if we had been oblivious to it until now. As she rested her head upon my chest, her fingers delicately tracing the contours of my shirt, I recognized that challenges lay ahead and that obstacles awaited us. However, in the stillness of the night, with the gentle cadence of her breath against me, my thoughts were solely occupied with how this connection, whatever it was, felt more authentic than anything I had ever experienced.